early in order for us to start on time. Today's topic is managing time in overwhelm. And Barb is always so responsive to what people are asking. One of our clients was asking about some solutions for how to handle overwhelm. Now, Barb, for those of you who don't know her already, she is known as a time tamer, and she has been offering solutions and very practical strategies on how to manage overwhelm, how to reduce stress, and how to expand so that you have more time. So today she is addressing something very specific, how to handle workloads that seem to continue to grow. How do you take ownership and your power back? So I'm going to hand it over to Barb. And thank you, Barb, for creating this session for us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cecilia. I'm going to just get my sharing sorted out so I can share my screens. And we're a pretty intimate group today, so we do have a little bit more flexibility. Normally, I would say, oh, just pop things in the chat, and please keep chatting away in the chat. I love it when people are engaged in the chat. Sometimes there is an opportunity, though, to be able to open up the mic. Bearing in mind we are recording, at the end of the session, we'll turn off the recording and we can really have a open conversation. And thanks for everybody that sent through some questions as well. They are great questions. We were just talking about them before we started, and I really want to be able to get to those through the presentation, or if not, definitely at the end. So this is an interactive session, and so it's great when you can leave your cameras on. It really helps us to get a feel for who's in the room, like you're literally there, and we can see when you're nodding your heads or falling asleep or any of those things. It helps us. So I love it if you can keep your cameras on, but I know for some of you you can't. I think someone's just commented in there that someone's having a technical challenge logging on. Tis or Cecilia, maybe if you could just reach out via email or something, that would be really awesome to see if you can help them log on. Now, who was it? Someone in the chat said, I'm not going to open my mic because I'm working away while I am listening. So good luck with that. We actually love it if you can be really present and close down those windows, close the door and engage in the content because you get the most out of it. However, I know that everybody's really busy right now, and that's why you're here. And good on you for taking out the time to be here. So let's make really good use of it and be present and take some notes. Please take some notes. We will be sharing with you some cheat sheets after this session. So a bit of a summary, plus we're going to send you a lot more resources, some recommended reading, some tools and assessment tools that you can utilize. So if we don't have your email address that you used with registration, Cecilia probably will reach out to you in a private message. So just look out for that in the chat to say, hey, we don't have your email address. So just to make sure that we can get you that resource afterwards, please ask any questions, or if I say something that's a bit confusing, just reach out. Make sure that you've renamed. I think everybody's renamed themselves on Zoom, which is awesome, so that I know who I'm speaking to and I get a feel for who's in the room. All right. So like I said, this is the goal of this training is to be interactive and fun. We really want the opportunity for you to be able to engage in this training. And you can see all these people, these pictures of people. These are people that have been engaged in our training. What we'll do at the end of this session is we do what we call a lucky door prize. So we'll do a little spinning of a wheel, and we're going to give away a book that is going to build upon your learning. So something that we've picked out from Amazon that we will send to you from Amazon that will support your learning and development. So if you hang around at the end, that's probably the most fun and engaging part of the masterclass. a little background. I really want to give you a little bit of a backstory about who we are and why we come to you today to deliver on this training. Some of you have been before and have participated in our masterclasses before. Some of you, this is brand new, and it's so lovely to have you in the room. The story of the Hinwood Institute, it's actually named after these two people who they actually founded the Stress Management
Barb,
Institute.
are you sharing your slides? I
Oh,
don't
you're
think we're
not.
seeing your slides.
Oh, thank you. I thought I was. Thank you so much. Now you can see them.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Cecilia. Um, so sorry, these two people here, Dr. John and Judy Hinwood, they founded the Stress Management Institute many moons ago. Extraordinary people that have had run many different businesses, and Dr. John Hinwood actually developed, I always struggle saying this, methylosemioma. So, and his survival was extraordinary, but unfortunately it did take his life. And Michael Massey and I worked very closely with Dr. John and Judy Hinwood. We had been students of their work. We had been mentored by them. And Michael Massey and I decided to start a business to uphold the legacy of their work and carry on the legacy of that work. So we had done a lot of work in that wellness and stress management space. Michael has taken a step back. We are still very closely connected and work with Michael with the business, but he's taken a bit of a back step and allowed Cecilia and I to build and leverage on a lot of that research and knowledge that they've done. So where we sit today is really zeroing in on that human side of work. We love going into messy rooms, Cecilia and I, not physically messy, but emotionally messy, energy messy, and making sense of things. Certainly, what I'm sharing with you today is the years of work that I've done around creating some order out of chaos, making sense of that chaos so that we can eliminate some of that stress and make our workplaces comfortable where we're able to enjoy going work rather than feeling like it's sucking the life out of you. A big part of what we do is around conflicts and tensions and challenges and conversations. So some of that will come into this presentation today in terms of those relationships, and I'll explain to you a little bit more about that. So yeah, we're not perfect. Cecilia and I build on and leverage on some of those mistakes that we've made, some of the mistakes that others have made, and what we've learned from that. We are all human, and so part of that process is celebrating what it means to be human and the challenges. We deliver these masterclasses to give you value. We're not here to do a hard sell or to extract anything from you other than your knowledge, your feedback, and your experiences. So we want to pack as much as we possibly can into these masterclasses, and it helps us learn what people need in the community, and it's a two-way kind of experience. So our next one that we are delivering, if you want to write this down, you will get a little reminder when this is coming up, but the next one we're doing, Cecilia will be delivering on becoming conflict capable. Tias will probably drop a link in the chat if you would like to register for that one, and make sure that you've got it in your diary. So, and if you've got any questions about that one, you can certainly ask us at the end. I want to share something else really exciting with you. We deliver so anyone that's been coming along to these masterclasses will not have seen this. This is pretty exciting news. Because we deliver these masterclasses regularly, and it's rare that we deliver the same masterclass twice. We are always doing something new, elaborating, building, expanding based on what people are telling us. However, what people have told us is they want more time with us. They want things that are more specific to them. So based on the feedback that we've got from people wanting more specific content, we've developed this little program. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I won't go too, I want to get stuck into the masterclass. So I just wanted to quickly mention this to you. The beauty of this is that it's a cohort of people that really knuckle down and share and keep each other accountable. Cecilia, have I covered that? Is there something else that you want to say in terms of this different thing that you've developed?
It's a completely different learning experience because you'll work with a small cohort over a 6-week period on a real world leadership challenge. So you're going to bring something that you are facing at work, bring it to this group. And over the 6-week period, we will support, hold you accountable, and get you to look at these topics that are very common in the modern workplace.
Thank you. Thanks, Cecilia. So I know it's a little bit different to what we've done with the masterclasses. So if you're interested in this and want to know more about what that looks like, reach out to us. All right, so let's get stuck into the learning that we want to focus on in this masterclass in terms of managing overwhelm and managing time. People that have been to my masterclasses before may have seen me speak to this, and I haven't been including it as much lately, but I really wanted to bring it back into this masterclass. When I first started out my business name was the Time Tamer. It was just me, sole trader, and I purely focused on time management. How I met Dr. John and Judy Hinwood is because I started to recognize my clients in managing their time were really stressed, really, really stressed. And I know when Cecilia was speaking to a number of you before this call that there were people that were feeling that stress. And I started to recognize that stress impacted on people's time, and people couldn't manage their time if they were stressed. They went hand in hand. So which is why I studied with the Stress Management Institute. However, I soon realized there was a whole range of other things that were impacting on people's capacity to manage their time. So are they being effective leaders in how they're leading their team? Are they able to have healthy, constructive conversations, which is a big part of Cecilia's expertise, having difficult conversations, managing those conflicts, setting some boundaries. And we're going to talk about boundaries today. Personal, professional, and people boundaries. How do we also manage all of those other complexities that impact upon our time? So this is the language. We used to use boring language like leadership, communication, time management. So Cecilia and I put some labels on these that better amplify or demonstrate what it is that people experience in that working environment. So being able to be smart in the way that you're talking with people. How do you feel good at work? How do you manage that stress and feel safe and healthy at work? Mission control is how do you implement your leadership capabilities? Doesn't matter what you've got written on your job description or your title. It's actually how do you be an example and lead, and how do you be the person that people look to when they need advice and support? How do you tame your time? And working more effectively together. Because sometimes if you're holding up somebody else, it's difficult to manage your time. If you're the one filling the gaps all the time and carrying the load, it makes it really hard. So how do we work more effectively together in order to achieve good results? And those essential human skills are all of those behavioral competencies that we talk about, like emotional resilience and adaptability and critical thinking and cultural intelligence. All of those skills are so important for people to be able to do their job. And just quickly, I won't spend too much on this slide, but this is the pain that we see people talking about when these things aren't aligned, when these things aren't working. And probably those top three: overwhelmed, overworked, and over this. I'm over it. I'm over the up and down and the emotional roller coaster. And I imagine what attracted you all to come to this masterclass today was the word overwhelm in that title. Am I right? Like that's what for a lot of you probably resonated with that and going, I'm feeling that sometimes. I'm experiencing that. And it's really hard to put up your hands sometimes and say, this is how I'm feeling right now. And what can happen is you can feel a bit of a fraud. You can feel like an imposter. You feel like you're letting people down, especially people at home when you come home snappy and exhausted and tired. So we want to move you over across to the other side. We want to be, if you can get a better alignment with some of these things, then you're going to feel more solution orientated. You can make strategic choices, not just for your workplace, but for yourself and where you want to go with your career or your business. You can intertwine those things when you've got a better balance. And that is going to give you greater confidence and certainty in the work that you do. So you can see it's a bit of a holistic thing, and we're just zeroing in really on the time and the stress component today. However, in our other masterclasses, we do tap into a lot of that other stuff. And I want to say to you that I love these quotes when we talk about time management. I always bring these ones out. And I think this one is the big one up here. And we see this a lot, Cecilia and I, and the teams that we work with, where people will say, this works for me. I want everyone else to fit in around me. Stop talking to me. Stop humbugging me. Uh, just everybody fit in around me. Okay. Then I can function and do my job. However, part of the challenge is that we need to be part of the change. We need to set some examples. We need to set some boundaries and set some precedents around how we do things. And here's a question I want to ask you. When you think about implementing some change and having some things, improving your time, what's the number one thing that is the hardest for people to do? When I'm working with them around time management and improving their time, the hardest thing for them. It's a bit of a rhetorical question, but it is changing your habits. That's the really big thing. And what I see is when people are really stressed, they revert back to what is familiar, what is known, what is comfortable. And you think about it, when we're trying to be healthy, we fall off the wagon. You know, we're trying to cut back on our coffee, get better sleep, eat less chocolate. And so we try to create new routines. And then when we get stressed, it all goes out the window, doesn't it? We go and eat some chocolate, or we do some of those things. So it is very common. And so you have to be kind to yourself too when you do revert back to old habits. But we do need to rewire our brains in order to have some change. So part of the process, one of the things that I'm really going to ask you to focus on today and to think about, I'm going to show you some tools that will be helpful for you. This is a process of mindfulness. It is raising your awareness around what's happening, where you're putting your energy, where you're putting your focus. What are the things that are impacting upon you? So if you can use this time to be a little bit reflective, hopefully it'll challenge some thinking for you. Certainly the cheat sheets that I give you afterwards will reinforce this as well. So I'm going to be posing a lot of questions for you. Please share in the chat if any of this resonates with you. And I guess I want to know if this is familiar for you. Tell me if this resonates. Do you find in your workplace that things are urgent all the time? Like the contracts are urgent, the changes the budget are urgent, suppliers are urgent, everything just is urgent all the time. And you're running around what we call putting out fires. Do people resonate? Can people just maybe shout in the chair in the chat, Anna, yes. I think if you're here, that's probably the reality, right? It's always a rush. And that's when it's like, oh, I can't keep up, and it's overwhelming. Yes, Sharon said time critical. Everyone's definition of urgent is different. I'm so glad you said that. And this is going to come up towards the end of the masterclass as well, is getting some clarity on that. Oh, Penny said it's like a surprise every time. Oh, where did this come from? Oh, you want to do this now? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. People I think can resonate with this. So I want to share with you some facts around this as well in terms of looking at everyone in the comments is really resonating with this. So here's some facts. So, and the reason I want to share this with you is to demonstrate that you're not alone in this experience. So, team members in Australia are demonstrating that there's almost 50%, over 50%, more than half of team members feel exhausted in their workplace. And who feels like, has anyone had this experience where you come home from work, you come home for the end of the day, and you're absolutely, in Australia, we say we're knackered, like, oh, I'm so tired. I just want to go to sleep. I want to crash. And you haven't done any physical work. It's not like you've been doing a lot of physical work, but you're just so fatigued. Has anyone had those kind of experiences where you just, oh, I'm smashed? Yeah. And I do a workshop, Smash to Smashing It. Mental fatigue, Gemma. Exactly. Penny said headache and cranky. Yes, going for a walk is great. And another masterclass we do is about all those tools that help you counteract stress. Yeah. So much of this comes from that overwhelm, the work is running around, dealing with everybody's urgency, responding to things, having to be very resilient. And a majority of leaders in positions, so those of you that are in leadership positions or those of you who are job owners, it's going to be it's probably higher for you. You're probably experiencing a higher level of exhaustion. Oh, yeah, so some of you are talking about the not getting everything done in the day. And if you're feeling stress, then there's nothing wrong with you. This slide is really important because it's demonstrating that most people are experiencing stress in the workplace. It's prevalent across all of Australia. And I'm sure Gallup actually has some reports around this to show it at an international level. So it's not unique to Australia. It's just the way that we experience that stress is different in different regions. So here's my first question for you. And I would love for people to share in the chat the answer to this question, but I want to know, what does overwhelm look like for you? If I was standing next to you and you were saying to me that you were overwhelmed, I would then ask you, well, how do you know? How do you know? What are some of the telltale signs for you that you feel overwhelmed? Let's see what everyone's got in, starting to put too many tasks and not sure where to start. Going quiet. Yeah, not knowing where to start. That's really interesting. 2 people have said that. That's really interesting. And it sounds like people are starting to say that they shut down, that they start to shut down, crawling to myself. Wow. Reactive, being reactive, losing focus. Yeah. A lot of you are saying not knowing where to start, that prioritization. The good news is I'm going to share with you a methodology around that. Avoiding hard tasks and working on the easiest job to feel like you have a win. Yes, we're going to talk about that one too. I love that. Procrastination is a big one. Yes, procrastination. And another masterclass is to really dig into that. We're going to touch upon that today. Yeah. So the most important thing is for you to start to recognize what are the alarm bells, where are the red flags, and so that you know it's time to step in. I need to actually step in and have a bit of an intervention here because things are starting to crack. So for some of you, you've done really well to recognize what that looks like for you. So this is where I would say, listen to your body, listen to the signals and the messages and how you're feeling rather than trying to push through. And I'm going to show you in a moment a slide and some research that shows the risk and the damage of always pushing through and doing that too much. So the next question, hopefully you've written something down. Like if you haven't, I want you to actually write down at least 1 or 2 points for you personally, what you recognize as a sign when you are overwhelmed, what it looks like for you. Remember, everybody is different and we experience stress differently, but what does it look like for you? And it's interesting how many of you talked about retreating and going quiet and being withdrawn. Cecilia and I, if you looked at our behavioral profiles, we're probably likely to be the opposite. We probably go out and blah, 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 to everybody and as a stress response. Okay, here's the next question. What does it cost you? What impact, like what is the cost that you have? And this can be to your business, to your work, to the organization. So, yeah, so needing to switch your focus multiple times means that you're less productive. That would be the cost. And what we know more and more in the workplace, oh my goodness, it's crazy where now our attention is so divided. In fact, that was one of the questions I think that someone actually put in, that having deep thinking time and being interrupted by others. And there's been some interesting commentary about that, where people, especially people that travel, how they actually get their best work done on the airplane because they have permission to switch everything off and have some real focus time. And this is where we talk about some boundaries in the workplace. Because that interruption really costs on output and productivity. In fact, here's a quick tip if you want to write this down. I don't know if you have the capacity to do this within organizations, but as a collective in the workplace, actually nominating some quarantined thinking time. So, for example, I worked for an entrepreneur who really pushed us in terms of outputs and outcomes. One of the things we decided in our office is Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings were no-go periods. So you weren't allowed to set up meetings with anybody or external people coming into the office. You weren't expected to respond to emails, and you didn't ring each other unless it was an absolute emergency. And that way we had committed focus time where we could do our reports and our documentation and that deep thinking time. For others, I would say go and sit in the boardroom. So if you can't leave the building, then go and sit in the boardroom for half an hour, just so people can't find you and you've got some focus time. Or can you come into work a little later, or can you go and work in a cafe for an hour and a half? Even though there's noise and stuff, you're not going to be interrupted by your colleagues. So these are just some things that you can do in that boundary setting. But for some others, there's some other things here. So decision fatigue, not being able to make decisions, resenting people. You start to resent your colleagues. Withdrawal is something that a lot of you have mentioned already. Not engaging anymore with people. Yeah, someone has mentioned about pushing through then has a mental cost, 2 or 3 days to fully recover. Totally get that. Yeah, some of you are resonating with the decision fatigue. Yeah, so there is a cost. We forget that there is a cost and it comes out somewhere else. So here is the mindfulness activity that I want you to think about, is where is the urgency coming from? So is it coming from, does most of it come top down? Does it come bottom up, or is there role and ambiguity? And this is a really interesting one when we're looking at teams working together or where you fit. Now, it's not uncommon. A lot of the people that I work with are stuck in the middle. So they've got a responsibility with all the teams that they're working with, but they're also reporting to somebody up who is not functioning and filling in the gaps for them. So they're always the gap filler, and then there's nothing left for them. And that's sometimes that the role ambiguity comes into that as well. in terms of who's taking the accountability and responsibility for this. And when we have lack of role clarity, that's where we get that psychosocial hazard coming in place as well. That becomes an eco culture that's not safe mentally. In Australia, we now have legislation around that. So you might have, and I know some of you are in business in this chat. Sometimes we've got family members that are part of the business. That creates a whole other dynamic and complexity. So it can be about the relationships you have with other stakeholders in the organization, or in the business. But then you've got the pressure coming from the clients or the people that you're leading, or the customers. Role ambiguity is a big thing for me as a small business owner. I have to do everything everyone else doesn't do, plus things only I can do. This is the big one, right? Filling in those gaps. So this is where it's a systemic problem, is being able to look at how do we delegate and what can we do to improve that handover. The best time managers, the people that are really, really good at time management, have really good ways of delegating to either people or tools that do the work, the automations and processes and systems that do the work for them, rather than you having to do all of it and wear that load and responsibility. So we really want to find out the root cause of this overwhelm and the stress, really where it's coming from. And when you start to put it into these kind of pillars or columns, that then gives you some strategy. And if you are in business, yes, there is probably a few different pillars, and you need to look at those ones differently based on where the urgency is coming from. And this was the thing you all talked about at the beginning. Everything is urgent all the time. So where is that urgency coming from? So this is the slide that I said that I really wanted to demonstrate to you, in terms of how we manage the stress and where that stress is coming from. And this scale, this is called, you might not see it because it's in black down there, it's called the Yerkes-Dodson law. This has been around for quite a while. Has anyone, just type in the chat yes or no. Some of you have been on my training before, you might have seen this. Yes or no, have you seen this before? Quite a few of you haven't seen it before. Awesome. One of you said, yeah. Or some of you have said, yeah. I think some of you that have been to my masterclasses will have seen this before too. Well, I always roll this one out. This is really interesting when we look at stress, because we actually need a little bit of stress to be able to perform. Stress is important. So what this is I talk about this being a dial that you turn up or you turn down. I actually love being stressed. I enjoy the hormones that pumps into my system, the adrenaline, the buzz of it. I really enjoy it. So I have to work really hard to dial mine down. I have to dial it right down. So if you can see here, this is the level of stress we're experiencing across this way, and the output, the performance that we have. So I love that they call it bore out, not burnout, bore out. What we know is that if you don't have any stimulation, if you don't have any pressure, you don't perform. So if you didn't have pressure to turn up to work every day, you wouldn't, right? If you didn't have deadlines, you're like, I got plenty of time. I'll do whatever. If you didn't have financial pressures in your business, it's like, oh, if we make a sale today or tomorrow, doesn't really matter. But once there's a little bit of pressure, that's where you start to perform. So we do need a little bit of stress. We talk about this comfort zone. That's where we like to feel comfortable. That can be probably a little bit cruisy. We don't have to be hyper vigilant or alert or resilient. We can just cruise along, creating a little bit of momentum and doing the work. Here's the thing, this is the growth and learning zone, right? And when we challenge ourselves, that's where we grow. challenge is a good thing because we achieve a little bit more. When we go to the gym, we want to put our muscles under strain and they feel sore the next day. Oh, but we actually lifted the weights. We put a bit of challenge and strain onto our muscles, and that's where things actually grow. So it is important that we do go into that zone. And I actually, those that don't like change, I actually say to people, and I have to remind myself of this too, unless you feel uncomfortable, you're not actually growing. So that discomfort that you're experiencing, being able to shift your thinking to go, this is me growing. This is me pushing myself into that challenge zone to learn and grow. Just having a look. What some of people are saying. Yeah. The problem is when we talk about burning the midnight oil, when someone put in the comments of really exerting themselves and then 2 to 3 days to recover, right? So we can, if we have to operate up here all the time, then we're going to get fatigue. So if I'm hurting, that's why you have to have, what do they call it in gym? Like you have the recovery day, you have to have the rest day. Your fitness instructor will say you have to have some recovery or some active recovery is the other thing that they talk about. You do have to have that rest, otherwise you're going to fatigue. And if you keep pushing yourself, you get to that point where you are really tired. You push yourself over that boundary. The longer you stay over that boundary line, the quicker or the more tired that you're going to get and exhausted that you're going to get. And if that happens for too long, that is where we get to that burnout. And so it can present itself as anxiety or fear or absolute exhaustion. I want to go back to this slide here. See this image here? That's me under a doona. This was actually a client who reached that burnout stage and was saying to me that they would have days where they just stay at home and they bury themselves under the doona and cry because it was just so overwhelming. They could not face the world and they could not face the work because it just reached that point where they were just absolutely exhausted. So that's when we reach that zone here. So these are some questions that, and I'm going to share these in the cheat sheet. So don't worry, you don't have to read through all of them, but these are some questions that, again, in that mindfulness approach, for you to recognize where are you sitting on that scale a lot of the time? Where are you positioning yourself? Because then we have an opportunity to create some strategies and solutions to be able to address that. So I would encourage you when you get the cheat sheet to actually spend some time and be reflective on that. And the big question, I guess, is how focused and engaged with current activities are you? A lot of you in the chat said that when you reach that overwhelm, you can't make decisions, you procrastinate, you avoid doing some of the more challenging things, or you completely withdraw. And so that is one of those telltale signs. Another one is my current level of stress impacting my productivity and performance? That was why I was asking you that question about what is the cost? What does it actually cost you? And lastly, what steps can I take to optimize my arousal level and improve my performance and well-being? This is when we start to have that intervention and look at the tools and the resources that you can implement. I'm going to share with you some quick and easy ones today that you can implement, but there's a whole range of them. There's a whole range of tools and strategies that you can utilize to be able to support you, that intervention that you need to be able to shift you on that scale. What did you just drop in there, Cecilia? Smash to smashing it. What was that?
I was just sharing some stress management techniques.
That was the cheat sheet, was it? From
Yes.
Smash? Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, if you're interested, there's some great
If
ones
anyone
there.
would like to access some of Barb's regulation strategies.
There's so many simple. And the thing is, they're so simple, a lot of these ones. Someone mentioned about going for a walk, right? Going for a walk outside. and I'm going off topic a little bit here, but going for a walk outside is the research shows being outside increases your dopamine levels, it reduces your cortisol, and it also, because of those things, but also being outside, it improves your immunity as well. So it's so good going for a walk outside. It does, it does. And the exercise as well. I know with my Garmin, like I said, I'm a stress addict. And my Garmin tells me you did not sleep well because you had a really stressful day and you didn't do enough physical activity to be able to counteract that really stressful day. It's so important. It's really interesting. So what we want to do is balance that load, creating some clarity. And the wheel that I was talking about, it's creating a bit of balance around that. And here's some simple questions that you can ask in terms of what can I control? What are the real demands this week? What trumps one other thing? What can I let go of? What resources do we have that we can utilize? And that's a big one. So again, if you're in business or you're working for a large organization, there are things that you can tap into that you may not be aware of that can actually help you and support you to give you a bit of a breathing space. What things need to move? So sometimes, again, we want to hang on to everything rather than going, I can push that one back. That can come, I can do that later. And it's a big one that I see with people that are overwhelmed is that they scared that if they push something, they'll forget about it, but it's incredibly important. So they do it right now when all these other things they need to do right now, which exacerbates the load rather than going, everyone line up, please. Let's prioritize you. You first, you second, you third. And I will get to you later on when I have more capacity, but right now these need to come first. And we call that a triaging process. Says the Eisenhower matrix, exactly that. So the Eisenhower matrix, and I'm normally in my time management training, I would use the Eisenhower matrix because it's an oldie but a goodie. And you'll actually, in email number 2 that I will send you, our second email is when we once we know you might have taken on some learning, we then pump you with some more resources. So look out for an Excel spreadsheet where it uses formulas to help you create a prioritized task list based on the Eisenhower matrix. So what's urgent, what's important. And it helps you. That's exactly what that tool does. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me know. I can send you some information to give you some more, or you can Google it as well. It's an amazing tool. So once we stop and are mindful and reflective, we're creating clarity. And when we have clarity, it stops us being on that hamster wheel, right? And creating artificial urgency. Where can we look at what we can control and rather than creating this spiral of energy? One of the most useful tools is the buffer time, the contingency. This one is the biggest trap for people. I'm going to talk a little bit about a time budget in just a moment, but this is where people underestimate how long things will take and don't allow themselves the buffer time. Now, what's really interesting is how important buffer time is. There was actually in Australia, there was a program on SBS. The name of the program slipped my memory, but they actually did a whole episode on burnout. And one of the people that they interviewed was a paramedics and in Sydney, and they were talking about and the increase of burnout of paramedics. And what became prevalent is recovery time. They didn't have that buffer. They didn't have that time to actually drop down, recover, and then go back up again. So there wasn't that buffer scheduled into the work that they were doing. So this is so important for so many people is to be able to have that contingency when you're setting yourself deadlines, when you're promising to deliver on work, that old thing of under promise and over deliver. You know, I will get this to you by the end of next week. Oh, you know what? Things fell into place and you're able to do it by Friday this week. How impressive are you going to look to your colleagues rather than creating unrealistic pressure on yourself? We want to create some buffer time. It's really, really important that you implement that for yourself, but when you're talking with others. When we do long travel in remote areas in Australia, we talk about flat tire time. Have I got enough time to change a flat tire if I have one? So that's what I talk about with my kids now, flat tire time. So in terms of some reflections for you, where is urgency culture being created within the teams that you work with? What expectations need a little bit more clarity, or where do you need to push back on some of those expectations? We're going to talk a bit more about that as well. And where can you add that 20% buffer? Can you implement that in terms of your delivery expectations with people up in above you, customers or clients? How can you implement that a little more into the work that you're doing? And then over deliver. Wow. Look, oh my goodness, you delivered it earlier. So, what's really interesting is resilience and courage are behavioral competencies that are going to give your leadership some edge. So, the work that I do with Corn Ferry recognizes 38 behavioral competencies that leaders need. Some at that higher level need different or stronger, need to be more stronger in those competencies, say, than a supervisor. But the behavioral competencies are what become really, really important once you're moving into positions of leadership. And how do we develop those? Oh, it's interesting. A lot of the work that Cecilia and I do is starting to talk about the culture and the values that we bring into the workplace. And this is where we see things slow down when there's tensions and conflicts around that. One of the things that we do is a charter of agreed behavior, which is saying this is how we call out each other's behavior. How do we align the values of what we do within the team to the organization and what it needs to do? But at the foundation of that is our own core beliefs and the things that we personally place value on. What do we place value on that are motivators and drivers for us at work? And so many of you talked about procrastination, I can say to you that these values are a big driver in procrastination. So, has anyone read Atomic Habits by James Clear? Amazing book. Yeah, Gemma, you've read it. Write this one down. It's a great book to read in terms of changing your behavior and your habits. And what he says is that if you don't enjoy something, you're not going to stick to it. If you don't stick with it, doesn't have that compounding effect. Put it off. And being interested is so important for the results, those motivators. So, how do you find the joy in what you're doing? How do you correlate this difficult thing to a payoff that aligns with your values? And what I like to think about is that whatever it is that we place value on, we actually become very good at that. That becomes one of our strengths that we bring to the work that we do. We naturally become really, really good at it. And those things that we are good at, well, they're really easy for us. We just, so easy. Yeah, I can do that. It's because we've got so much value on it. This is another masterclass that I've done before is about Genius Zone. How do you get into the flow? What do you need to do to be in flow and make things happen? And so much of it is being very clear about your values and what it is that you place value on. Doing some of the behavioral psychometrics that we do as well. Cecilia does Luminous Spark. I do DISC. A lot of those can help identify those as well. So some things for you to think about to be able to understand that if you want to take this away for yourselves is what are you actually doing when you procrastinate? What are you choosing to do rather than the thing you should be? Because therein lies a bit of a secret. That probably tells you what it is you place value on. What do you really enjoy doing at work? And it probably aligns very closely to something that you place value on. So this is your superpower, and what makes you really good at what you do, but it is also your kryptonite in terms of disempowering you. It's where you will go and get distracted. If it's threatened or it's not prevalent in the work that you do, you will get stressed and anxious about it. So there's a lot that this can tell you about drivers and habits in the work that you do, getting very, very clear on this. All right, so this is a tool that I want to show you. It is called, normally I would say to you, it's really good for overwhelm. When you've got, so it's a bit different to the Eisenhower matrix, but it's still a matrix. And if you've got lots of balls that you're juggling in the air, this is where this tool is really, really powerful. It is so good for overwhelm, this one. Really, really good. So you can do this for yourself, but you can also do it with your team or your business partner or your colleagues to go, let's put things into perspective. What you would do normally, so this is how you remember it, is that you would draw a line across on a piece of paper. That's the matrix that you have. Similar to the Eisenhower matrix, what you will do is have some headings up the top, and then we put the opposite headings down the bottom. So we've got hard work up the top in each of those quadrants, and then the opposite down the bottom. And I will give you this framework as well that you in the cheat sheets, but you can write this down now as well if you want to. So quickly write it down on your piece of paper. Headings up the top, and this is how you remember it in your head if you don't have my cheat sheet. Heading up the top, opposite heading down the bottom, and then we go from left to right. So we would go high result on the left and the opposite on the right. So this is called the ease and impact matrix. If you ever hear anybody talking about this, I just change the word impact to result because that just makes sense in my head. And then what you want to do is think about things, the balls that you're juggling, not the specific tasks, which is what the Eisenhower matrix does. This is about the projects or the where you're putting your energy and focus, all the balls in the air. And so there's some questions that you want to ask for things that sit within each of these quadrants. So if you've got something that is easy work, really easy to do, and it has a big impact, you get a lot out of it, high result, makes you lots of money if you're in business, for example, and it's easy to do, then you want to do more of that. Right. And certainly I've had to refer back to this in my business, especially with my accountant, looking where the money flows into my business and how much effort and load it takes me to acquire that business. And it enables me to shift where I put my energy and tension and where I spend my time on and what I prioritize my time on. So the first question you want to ask is, if there are things like this in my world, how do I do more of this? How do I do more? Because clearly, if it's easy to do and it has a big impact, you want more of that, right? That's a bit of a no-brainer. Problem is, lots of things get in the way. So what is that? As a coach, that's what I want to know. An accountant, a business coach, they're always going to ask you, what are the barriers? What are the roadblocks? What are the big boulders on the road that we can blow up that are blocking you to move fastly to where you need to go? It's always something that gets in the way. So that just gives us some strategy as well. How can we do more and how can we eliminate those rocks that get in the way? All right, the next one is, such hard work. This is such hard work, but it is worth it. Business owners out there, this is the one that you really need to focus on, right? Because there's a lot of hard work and you know it's important because it creates results. So I want you to really zero in on this one. How do we share the load? This is about the delegating. So it can be to how do I equip my colleagues, my business partner, the others around me, the contractors? How do I make them able to take on more of the load? What needs to happen in order for them to take the load? And if it's not people, then it's the resources and tools. What tools exist out there that enable me to automate a lot more? Or what systems take out the cognitive load where it's just a paint by numbers process. Chances are, once you've put out some of those systems and processes, there's some little steps in there that you can actually outsource. But too often we just go, oh, it's just easier if I do the whole thing. But there are actually some things that you can probably delegate in there. So here's an example. This actually came from Kate McCallum, author of The Joy of Money, a wealth advisor. This is an example of things that she implements when she goes into businesses, is actually getting the team to do a bit of a brain dump about those things that are frequent or those things that are high impact, right? They really impact upon the work. And then identifying which one of those are unnecessary, which ones are annoying, and which ones just slow things down. They're not productive. And so then as a team, they're able to collaborate on finding strategies and solutions to work around those. And I really encourage you to do this with your team because many heads make light work. You can work collaboratively to come up with solutions. In my private life, I'm part of a group called, it's actually a part of the community foundation. It's called Getting Good Stuff Done. And these are a group of people who have great ideas to do things that would impact upon the community. But it's like, oh, it's just too hard. I don't have any time. So when we come together as a collective of people, we are able to brainstorm and share knowledge and resources and networks to make that load lighter. And we actually get things done. We're able to get some things done and make an impact in the community. Okay, the next one is hard work and it doesn't shift the needle. And there's a lot of times, especially if you work for government or large organizations, where there's a lot of process, you're going, why am I doing this? Why am I going through this process? And so the questions you want to ask here is, did someone else tell me this was a good idea? And I find this in business where people go, oh, you should do this in your business. Go out and do this. And then for us, we spend a bit of time actually looking at that and going, how much did it shift the needle? And I know with Tis and I, my assistant, I have to understand you have to go. That's okay. Tis and I actually had a conversation yesterday going, that doesn't shift the needle. So let's drop it. Let's drop it because we spend so much effort, time and energy creating something and it doesn't shift the needle. But it's because somebody else said, you should be doing this in your business. And the other one is habit. Are you doing this out of habit? Well, this is just the way I've always done it. This is the way we've always done it around here. This is just what we do. And with that are outdated procedures. These are procedures that no longer fit for purpose in terms of what you're doing. So what are the processes to make that change? I'm going to give you an example of a client that I was working with. This is a classic example. This client, and I was working with this client to improve their productivity and time management. This client is a business coach, has been doing this for years and years and years and years. And so they would have a lead that would come through their website, right? Someone that wanted to do business with them. And because this is what they'd always done, this is what they would do. They would then have a job form. And they also worked a lot in service-based industries, so like plumbing and electricians, whatever. So they were very used to having a job form. And so they would fill out this paper job form with all those details so that they could process the paper. And each time they would assign a job number. And when I asked them why, they said, well, I want to track the number of leads in a month and the time taken to convert that client by that job number. That's what that tells me. They would then enter all that data into a spreadsheet because it's all data, it's important data. And then they would import that data into their CRM, into their customer relationship management tool. So do you know what? Do you see the big problem with this? Does everyone see this is somebody that has constantly adapted their very old process to fit in with the tools that they're using. What they actually needed to do was just jump from step 1 to step 5. 1985 system. I reckon it was, Cecilia. I reckon they probably had this system before all the technology was implemented, especially the paper, getting them to shift. And so though by using the CRM would tell them how long they'd been in the system, how long it took to convert them to a lead. They didn't need all those bits of paper. And it was a bit of a, oh, yeah, moment when we're going, that's a lot of work for little impact. The last one is if it's easy work and it actually doesn't achieve much, this is where are you just doing this because it's fun? Does it feel rewarding? Does it give you a gratification? Some of you mentioned that in the chat that you'll procrastinate by going and doing something that's really easy to do. And you feel a sense of gratification in getting something done, but it's actually not helping the big picture. So sometimes we actually need to this is a take a good hard look at yourself question. Are you just doing it because it gives you some reward and validation? Like tidying up the desk, deleting emails. Exactly. Exactly. The example I use is you say to your colleague, oh my God, what have you been doing all day? Oh, I've been so busy. I've color coded the stationery cupboard. I've thrown out all the pens that don't work. We've now got all the post-it notes. That's the sort of thing I do, right? Because I love organizing things in color coding, but it's not actually doing much. But it gives me great satisfaction and reward. So this tool is a very simple one that you can implement to create some mindfulness. And I really encourage you to do it when you are feeling that overwhelm. Actually put those things within those quadrants and then answer those questions. Ask yourself those questions and answer them. And you can have these conversations with your colleagues. And so I often do this with my coaching clients. We do this theory-based stuff in the beginning so that I can say, is this hard work or is this easy work? Does it have a big impact or a low impact? So that we can then be a little bit more realistic about what we need to be doing in response to those things. Does that make sense for everybody? If you've got any questions around this and practical application, we can have some time at the end to have a bit of a chat around this as well. So the next thing I want to share with you is what I call a time budget. I actually spend quite a bit of time with clients around this. So, you know how we have a financial budget? Well, and then look at where we spend our money. We set a goal for how we want to spend our money. Do we go over budget or under budget? So remember I was talking to you about the Eisenhower matrix? This is the Eisenhower matrix. And for those of you that haven't heard about it before, same thing as the ease and impact and same things in terms of titles up the top, opposite titles down the bottom. This is what it looks like. And this relates to the actual tasks, the work that you're doing. And the problem with when people implement this matrix, it's amazing. It has a huge impact in terms of how the habits and the systems and the process. And this is part of what I teach people in the work that I do, that's how to implement these processes. But this is the one I want to focus on. This is the secret killer, this one. Tell me if this resonates with you. You can comment in the chats about this one. So this is when someone says to you, this is really important, really, really important. We got plenty of time. I have plenty of time to do it. So it could be doing a proposal. It could be writing a report. It could be doing an application for something. It could be spending time engaging with your customers or your clients. And that relationship, spending quality time with your family. Like these things are really important, right? I'll do it when I've got time. I'll do it when I've got time. That's what we say to us. And the problem is we don't actually make that time for it. And that's why we have defer it as an approach. We actually block out some time somewhere in the future to do that thing. And we can shift it if we need to. We can modify it if we need to, but we need to hold space for it. Same way that we have a budget, right? The reality is we're going to need to spend this. So where are we going to spend it and how much are we going to spend? That can flex, that can change if we need to as the situation presents itself. But what are we actually doing? So what this is what I often do with people is to go, what are you budgeting and how much are you spending? So we look at what's the plan, especially when we've got a big project, a really, really big project. We want to break it down into bite-sized chunks and then go, how long will it take? So I was working with a client who thought that she was highly incompetent, that there was something wrong with her, that neglect, the imposter syndrome, and she was starting to burn out because she was working after hours and weekends to get things done. And when we looked at some of those big things she had to work on and we broke them down with a bit of buffer, made sure we had some buffer there. She said to me that these reports that she had to do regularly would take her, she estimated 6 hours. And so we planned for her to do 2 hours, that was the budget, 2 hours in certain blocks where she was going to do this report writing. But I said to her, you must track it, use some tools to track your time. And then when we revisited the budget, she said, oh, Barbara, oh my goodness, that report actually took me 12 hours. So you can see she was way over budget. And what happens when you go over budget, especially when you're a business, you take it out of your own pocket to top up the coffers, right? So if you don't have enough in your budget, you're going to take it out of your personal time. You're going to do it after hours and on weekends to fill up the budget because you've overexpended. So this is where you need to actually block out those times. That's your budget. You can shift them if you need to, but you're going, there's only so much time in the week. How am I going to spend it? What is my budget? The tool that I recommend that you use for tracking actually what did you spend is a tool called Toggle. It's toggl.com. There's no E there. And when you do, you can create a free account. You don't have to pay for it. And the Toggle track, this Toggle track is the one that you want to utilize. And it is really powerful because it enables you can create a timer that you start or stop, or you can go back and manually enter data, or you can edit anything that you've tracked if you forgot to turn on the timer or the timer and things like that. And the reports that it produces allows you to see what projects you were working on and what percentage that's taking up, how much you actually spending in a whole week or a whole month on those specific things. So if you said to me, Barbara, how much money do you spend on coffees? I'd say, oh, it's only $6 here and there. It's not much. But then it's a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. And guess what? You can imagine how much it costs me in coffees over a month. So, and then I go, where's my money gone? Where's all my money gone? Like we actually have to budget for that because that's what you're spending on. So this is where these reports can be really, really powerful. Is to be able to see where you're actually spending. So yes, you do, it does take time to track time, but it does pay dividends down the end. And you can see sometimes that with that, again, that manager that I was working with going, oh, I'm so incompetent. We discovered that 50% of her time was taken up with administrative tasks. And when we had that evidence, that then gave her opportunity to negotiate with people in control and power to delegate and recruit extra support to reduce that load for her. Because we had that evidence, rather than them just going, oh, you just need to manage your time better. Yeah, that's the problem. It's like, no, there is too much to do and not enough time. And that data can be really powerful. So I want to close out just getting to look at some other things. And I said that I would mention this to you in terms of boundaries. Boundaries are a big one. The power, this is one of my favorite sayings, the power of your yes comes down to how well you can say no. The no is actually more important than the yes. And So part of that is being able to, some of those questions that you want to ask people. This was something that someone mentioned before. Is it actually urgent? Is it time critical? Is it legally urgent? Is it financially urgent? Or is it just emotionally urgent? I really want to get this done, or I really want you to get this done. Is there actually, what are the risks that are associated with that? So here are some language tools. I'm going to share so many more with you around these, but we want to be able to be assertive in our communication. So that doesn't mean being aggressive or pushy. That's being able to communicate what you want and what you need in order to do your work. And so part of that can be the questions that you're asking to establish the urgency. So if you've got someone that has the power over your work, then you want to be asking, what is it that you want me to deprioritize? What are the deadlines and what's the risk if we don't meet the deadline? There's a whole range of questions that you can ask, which are a way of you pushing back without actually going, no, not going to do it. You're getting some clarity and asserting yourself. And then what we want is different ways of saying no with some emotional and intelligence. So we're not becoming reactive and emotional and throwing our hands up in the air and go, oh, I can't do this. We're actually communicating in a way that demonstrates that we're thinking deeply about this and thinking about our own needs in terms of the work and what energy we can put into it. So, for example, these are just some examples of language that you're demonstrating. I appreciate the opportunity. However, I have to pass. This is a good one, especially if you're in business. Thanks for bringing this to me. We are the right people to do this. However, we're at capacity. I've got a local mechanic. My husband had an interesting experience with a mechanic. There's one guy that we were using. He was amazing. Oh my gosh, so successful because he was such a good mechanic. And what he did really well was saying, we want to help you, but we're not going to be able to fit your car in for 3 weeks. Happy to book you now, but we're not going to be able to get to it in 3 weeks. This mechanic unfortunately closed down. He recommended another mechanic. This other mechanic, we went to him and said, can you help us? And he's like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. Bring your car in. The car sat with him for 2.5 months because he obviously wanted to say yes to the work, but he didn't let us know how long it was going to take for him to do it. And so rest assured, we're not going to that second mechanic ever again. So these are ways that you can create a little bit of pushback. I love this one. Let me come back to you. Too often people feel like they have to have an answer in the moment, and that's not the case. Sometimes you need the time to think and digest it and look at things. You don't always have to make a decision in the moment. And also you can change your mind. You can go back and say, I've been thinking about our conversation and I'd actually like to reconsider. I don't think I can do this, or I can do this, whatever it is. You can also change your mind. My favorite, I'm at capacity. I love that because that's you recognizing what your limits and boundaries are and making a choice and letting somebody else know. I have reached my boundary limit. And but now what I love about this is going, is this an option? You're coming to it with a solution. Can we do it this way? Could we reduce the load? Could I give it to this person to do? Unfortunately, I previously made plans for this time. I've got something else on my calendar. Am I the best person to help? I love this. Quite often people will come to you because you have the knowledge, because you can fill out the gaps. But also maybe it's not the best use of your time because you are better to do something somewhere else. So are you really the best person to do this? Could someone else do this better? Or be capable of doing it to free you up to do it? I'd love to help. Can we do this later? Is another one. So it's not saying I don't want to help you, but I can't help you right now. I can help you next week if that's an option, but I can't do it this week. So it can be something around that. So in the cheat sheet I send you, we'll have all of these different languages, language tools that you can utilize in different situations. And it's about, am I taking out the emotion? Am I asserting my needs? How can I do this in a way that doesn't create conflict or tension? How do I set some boundaries? So what we're going to do now, just we've got a couple of minutes left. I just want to close out and I want you to be ready for those of you still here. This is the time where you get your pen ready to write things down. If you've got a QR reader, this would be where you want to get that QR reader because we're going to drop a few things for you that might be useful. If we have check your chat to just check if see if Cecilia has asked you for your email address, because if we don't have it, I can't send you all the resources that we are going to send to you afterwards. This is a list of things that I want you to look out for after this session. I don't normally include this in the masterclass, but I've spent a lot of time putting together some resources that are going to help you afterwards. So there'll be a cheat sheet of this presentation. Please share it with other people, like Cecilia shared with you a cheat sheet of the stress tools. There's tools and resources that we want you to share with other people. I'm also going to give you a saying no language cheat sheet, like a whole range of different language tools, more than the ones that I've shown you here. I'm going to give you that Excel prioritization tool, which is the Eisenhower matrix, and also a bit of a diagnostic, like a quiz that you can go through that can determine where helps you identify where the urgency is coming from, where you might be feeling the urgency. So you want to look out for those. If you don't get them, please reach out to us so we can send them to you. If you want to book a strategy session with either Cecilia or myself, based on any of those things that we've talked about, bearing in mind, this is not us selling you anything. This is about coming up with some solutions that are specific to you. Okay, so this shows you some of the things that Cecilia and I do. If you'd like to talk through some options or solutions, then you can, and Tias has just dropped in the link in the chat as well, the links where you can book in a time for us to come up with a bit of a framework for you based on your specific needs and what you might be able to do for yourself. And just to give you an example, this is somebody that I did a free strategy session with based on a challenge that she was experiencing. So I was able to prep her and come up with some strategies in preparing for a challenging conversation that she needed to have, and just some structures, that she could implement. So, and that was not a client, that was just a strategy session that we did. Okay, so our ask to you is to keep the learning going. We want you to give us some feedback. Every time you give us feedback, we create another masterclass. We do something else that is a little bit different, and how we can improve on what we're delivering. If you can recommend our masterclasses to your colleagues, to your HR manager, these masterclasses, a lot of HR managers are using this as an extension of their professional development. So please, we encourage you to do the same, because it helps us to get that feedback and to build trust and rapport with our community. And also, we're going to send you, Tias will probably drop it in the chat. She has a feedback form. Please give us the feedback. What did you like? What didn't you like? What do you want more of? And that really, really helps us to be able to improve on these. So that feedback form, or if you can do a Google review, even better. We're not a cafe. We're not a gym. So trying to get Google reviews, it's really hard. So we appreciate it when people can give us a Google review as well. All right, this is the fun bit that I promised you. I said to you that we give away a book. So I'm going to stop sharing in just a minute. This is the book that I want to give away. So we're going to do a lucky draw. If for those of you that don't win the lucky draw, Tias will, I think, will drop a link in the chat afterwards. You can do that in a minute, Tias, of where you can buy the book on Amazon for yourself. But someone is going to win this book and we're going to send it to them. So I'm going to stop sharing. Who's doing the wheel? Is it Tias or Cecilia? Who's doing it?
I'm doing it, Barbara,
Okay,
this time.
Tias. All right, thank you. All right, you have to,
Uh,
I'll let you share, Tias.
yep, I will share it just in just a moment.
The anticipation.
Okay, are you guys seeing it?
Not
Not
quite.
quite.
There we go.
There
Now
we
we can
go.
see it.
Okay. Okay, everyone's ready? I will spin it. Good luck to you guys. Anna! Congratulations,
Ah,
Anna.
yay! I love the little applause at the end. Anna,
Oh, congratulations, Anna.
uh,
I
Anna,
wonder.
she's still there, but she hasn't got a camera on. Are you there? Have you stepped away from your desk, Anna? I know Mike wasn't working before. Well, we'll reach out to Anna if she has stepped away. I'm not sure, but she's still online, so we'll reach out to Anna and get her postal address so that we can send that book to her. But there's a link there if any of you would like to get that book as well. And I actually listened to the audio version of this on the Qantas plane. It is so amazing. It's a really, really good book. So this comes to, I could show my last slide, but I'll show it because it's fun. Hang on, the last little side. Where are we? There's the book. So my last thing is now I would love to open this up. We're finished just a little bit early so that we can answer any questions that you have, anything that was a bit overwhelming or confusing. And what I would also like to do, I'm actually going to stop the recording now as well. I might have to stop sharing to do that, to be honest.